With us, it's the 26th day of September 2017. We're exactly 30 days to the repeat presidential poll, and in news we've been following for you, the National Super Alliance leaders maintain that the demonstration against electoral officials will proceed today. We're now fast approaching noon. They still have not made their way to the Central Business District, where they're expected to assemble. They're supposed to make their way. We're expecting them to make their way to the Uhuru Park, after which they will be proceeding to the anniversary towers. The protest is meant to force the resignation of Electoral Commission Chief Executive Officer Ezra Chiloba, together with 10 other officials whom the coalition claims bungled the August 8th presidential election. We will be looking at what's happening in the Central Business District very shortly. Also in news, in Babu Owino, the Embakasi East Member of Parliament, is currently in court at the Milimani Law Court, and we're following that story for you. He is being represented by Senior Counsel James Orengo, and he will be taking plea very shortly. Those are the stories that we're following for you at this hour. With me in studio is David Osiani, who is a public policy consultant. We're also joined by Gabriel Musuma, who is a political analyst, Mark Bichache, communication strategist, and Joseph Simeha, who is a political analyst. Gabriel, we're still waiting for the NASA leadership to make its way to the Uhuru Park as we wait for them, of course, to converge and proceed to the anniversary towers. October 26th is the date that has been slated for the repeat poll. They are calling for reforms within the IEBC, asking that 11 commissioners be ousted. Looking at the timelines, how feasible or realistic is this?
I think we would, if there's one thing we'll all agree, is that the time factor actually would be a hindrance. And I don't think at this point, I don't see how you would rearrange anybody when we are looking to have something we are calling a better election or a better process than we had before, to try and start moving people and pieces within IEBC. So I think that would be uncalled for at this point.
Here earlier said that we're talking about time, and yet for them they communicated these concerns in ample time, that there was ample time to be able to actually meet their demands.
You're looking at a commission that came in barely 7 months ago. If we are going to talk about the reforms, the radical reforms that we were talking about in 2007, it's a matter of, I mean, he would tell you that we are time bad. You know, if we are to follow the right process of 24 months before we run into an election, we are time bad. These are commissions that came in the other day. And if you look at it, to be fair and, to talk about the honesty factor here, these people have been in and out of court 40-something times. So let's be fair to them. Even if we are talking about having a credible election, the fairness element must actually suffice. But still on the other edge that, we are talking about having a good and a nice sitting with these commissioners, where the two divides are going to be involved. I think that is probably the place I would push this. Let people come together, let them sit down and see what can be changed. When you're talking about the bare minimum, so you're talking about, a radical implementation at this point. They themselves and Jubilee, if there's one thing they'll agree, is that there is very little you can do apart from the 4 lines that I saw today, IEBC saying these are the places that we need some element of radical changing. And if that can actually be done, so, we need to give them the goodwill and the space for them to be able to implement that. However, Lillian, the conditions that we are setting to remove people, we know we made a mistake. And I said it here. I said, the issue of giving a mouse a cookie, tomorrow it comes for a glass of milk. The mouse has come for a glass of milk. It is going to use the same mechanisms that we used to remove the Hassan-led commission. And actually we started getting time bad then. So we are saying to start the riots again, where we are affecting business, where we are affecting the commerce element of this great city, so that we can have several commissioners and people in the secretariat leave. What will it change? Is it going to help us move forward, or is it going to ensure that we do not have an election? So if we are talking about making sure we do not have an election, then let's move on with...
Is the intention to frustrate this?
I think that's what it is. That's what it is.
If we are totally brutally honest, we've done this since 2007. Okay? Now, my primary school teacher taught me that if I repeat class 8 4 times, I probably am not destined for education.
Hold that thought, Mark. Hold that thought. We'll be very, very shortly crossing over to the Orange House. We understand that the NASA leadership will be holding a press conference there. That's at the Orange House, and we will be going live there very shortly. As you can see, preparations underway to receive the NASA leadership. This is ahead of their anti-IEBC protests that will be happening after, I believe, this particular press conference. Back to you, Mark. Let's proceed with what you were saying.
Yes, so saying that if you repeated class 8, back in the days we used to repeat classes, and if you repeated it 8 times, the teacher will probably tell you that education is not your thing, please go look for working in Django. Now, Einstein said that to know you are crazy is you keep repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We've changed commissioners and the IEBC 3 times in the last 10 years. What does that tell you? It's not working. If you looked at the judgment from the judges, there are procedural issues that need to be dealt with. What NASA should be focusing on is the procedures. Make sure the KIMS kits work as they should. Make sure all the documents are signed. Make sure all the Form 34s are signed, because I guarantee you, as far as systems are concerned, it does not matter who you put in charge of them. The system will give you the same results. In computing, we call it garbage in, garbage out. It does not matter how pretty the person is who typed in the data. The machine will process it the same way. So it is not about the person per se. Because how does removing Gabriel from this seat because he is corrupt, I imagine, how does it guarantee me that the next person coming to sit to that seat is not going to be corrupt? We need to come to a place as a nation where we focus on our systems and our processes to make sure they are solid and stop this witch hunt of people, because all the thing that you're going to do is this is going to turn away from a protest against the IEBC to a protest against having an election in this country. As
you hold that thought, I'll be coming back to you, David. We have an update now from the anniversary towers where Hassan Mugambi has been on standby, and we are expecting the NASA leadership to be addressing members of the Fourth Estate at the Orange House, meaning they have not made their way as yet to the Central Business District here in Nairobi County. But let's listen into what exactly is happening at the anniversary towers.
Yes. Yeah.
The NASA leadership is yet to show up here at the anniversary towers because they are, of course, first of all want to speak to the press, and just maybe because we have been in communication with some of those that are close to the the NASA secretariat, and they are saying that first of all they want to establish a route that they will be using to come here and just tell their followers what particular route to follow to be here at the anniversary towers headquarters. But then again, the fortification of this area is still underway. As you can see, officers on horsebacks have already presented themselves here, and we're seeing pockets of demonstrators have already begun coming into this particular place. We're just seeing formation officers who are manning this particular place moving in. So we will be just walking towards that direction to see what exactly is happening there. We saw earlier on that pockets of demonstrators already making their way to come and agitate for the removal of a section of members of the IEBC secretariat here at the sitting of the IEBC in anniversary towers. So we just moving towards, drifting towards where they are. We're seeing a very huge placard there with a section of it with Ryla's portrait, and another one has writings, not understanding what exactly they have written to it. That is the kind of situation that is underway here. We're seeing them coming from different areas of Nairobi, and they have already presented themselves here to just get to show face so that it's getting a bit chaotic here, so to speak.
We will not go to his house to beg for 20 bob. Let him go back to his workplace.
Well, Lillian, that is the kind of situation we have here at the university, where we're having pockets of demonstrators who have already showed up here at the anniversary towers, just shouting to the top of their voices what exactly they want from the IEBC. We earlier on saw the officers here trying to restrain them and just acting in a very, very, sober manner in as far as the restraint is concerned, just trying to restrain them to stay on one side of the road. Traffic is currently moving, but very, very slowly here along the university way. We are seeing just vehicles avoiding this particular road. But then again, those who have already found themselves using this road are moving, but moving with...
Members of the press, before you are members of Parliament, of the National Assembly and the Senate, from the NASA coalition. We are quite a number, so we will not go to individual... I'll not mention the names of individual members, but as you can see, it's a representative of the NASA coalition. Now, we have a press statement, and the heading of the press statement is "Police is Planning Chaos." It has come to our knowledge that Honorable Moses Kuria of Gatundu South constituency chaired a meeting yesterday night with members of the outlawed Mungiki sect from Banana, Ndonyo and surrounding suburbs of Kikuyu constituency, ostensibly to discuss creating chaos during NASA's peaceful demonstration against the IEBC scheduled for today. We are reliably informed that this group has been armed with crude weapons, including pangas, and are currently being provided with free transport in matatus flying route number 102 into town with only one intention: to cause disturbance that will result into a confrontation between them and our team, with the aim of triggering violence to suit their selfish interests. It has also reliably come to our knowledge that this meeting was held with the full knowledge of the Director of Criminal Investigations, Mr. Ndegwa Muhoro, and the Nairobi Area Police Commandant, Mr. Japheth Kome. They are fully aware of this, and their intention demonstrates complicity with this nefarious plan. We wish to make it known to the people of Kenya that we have tried to engage these two senior police officers with a view to securing their intervention to guarantee the peace and security of Nairobians and property, with no success. They have rejected all calls not only to provide adequate security but even to investigate the matter. They are more concerned with the disruption of our planned peaceful demonstration against the IEBC than the security of the Kenyan taxpayer, who is their employer. We wish to reiterate that the right to picket and to peaceful assembly is enshrined in our Constitution, the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, and these rights are not granted by the state or any other individual, but are inalienable to every Kenyan. As citizens who respect the rule of law, we did what is required by law in giving notice of our intention to the police. The police acknowledged receipt of this notice, and we expect them to provide us with the necessary security during the demonstration. We will therefore exercise these rights without fear of intimidation and urge all Kenyans of goodwill to join us as we agitate for the removal of the corrupt and criminal Ezra Chiloba and his cronies from the IEBC. We are equally dismayed by the decision by Jubilee to withdraw the security detail assigned to our presidential candidate, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and his running mate, His Excellency Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. This is a dangerous precedent in bad taste, and we want to tell President Uhuru Kenyatta that should anything happen to any of our principles, we shall lay the blame squarely on his shoulders. Uhuru Kenyatta, as the current holder of the instruments of power, is solely responsible for the security of Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and other senior leadership of the NASA coalition. Therefore, it is our conclusion that this action, coupled with the state-sponsored organization of Mungiki, reveals part of a wider scheme to cause harm to our leaders and plunge this nation into chaos. Kenyans will not accept it. We therefore give the states 24 hours to return our leaders' security or face mass action right at their doorstep. This is not negotiable. That is irreducible minimum, I dare add. And it is signed by NASA Parliamentary Group. Let me just add maybe 2 words or so to this statement. I will not overemphasize the provisions in the Constitution regarding the right to assembly, the right to picket, and the right to demonstrate. That is a right that the people of Kenya gave each and every one of us. And in exercising our constitutional rights as NASA coalition, we called for peaceful demonstration to remove criminals, people who bungled the August 8th election, who are still occupying offices at the anniversary towers, the offices of IEBC. And we need no permission from any authority to do that. But in line with the provisions of the law, we decided to notify the police of our intentions. However, as I have just said, it has come to our knowledge that the government, actually state machinery, is using people like Moses Kuria to organize the outlawed Mungiki. The same way Mungiki were organized in 2007 to cause mayhem in this country. And there are people who have worn plain clothes but are armed. And their aim is only one, to target some of our leadership. We want to tell Uhuru Kenyatta, who is exercising the authority of the president as a temporary incumbent president, that he has a duty. He has a duty to protect this country. That is his single most important responsibility as president. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to be scared into submission. We are ready, and I want to borrow words from Justice Maraga, that we are ready to pay any price for this. So if the government thinks they are going to intimidate us, let them be warned that we are not ready, we are not about to give in. And on the security of our leaders, Kenyans are ready. We are ready to provide security to Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. So even if they take their security, we will provide that security. But we want to just urge the president not to plunge this country into chaos. Kenyans are not ready to see the country burning. And I see Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy slowly and systematically driving this country to the point that we may not have Kenya tomorrow. We urge them to stop it, and stop it now. Thank you very much, and God bless you. I don't think there is any need for any question. I don't think there is no need for any question. We are demonstrating to IEBC to remove Chiloba and his team from office. So any question about what IEBC has said is overtaken by events. We are heading there. I don't think there is anything we are going to... Those are irrelevant. If we were thinking of those things you are asking, we would not be marching to IEBC. Thank you very much.
Chiloba must go. Chiloba used to work with you.
That is the Suba Member of Parliament, John Mbadi, at the Orange House there. He is flanked by other NASA supporters and leaders, indeed, as they made claims that police are planning chaos, and of course allegations there made against Moses Kuria, the Gatundu Member of Parliament, who they claim is planning to organize chaos. They talked about this being a scheme by their competitors, their political opponents, to disrupt their planned peaceful demonstrations. They also spoke, or rather he spoke, of 24 hours. He gave the state 24 hours to return the security of the NASA leadership, that is Raila Odinga and his deputy Kalonzo Musyoka, or face mass action. That is John Mbadi, the Suba Member of Parliament. They now say that they are proceeding to the IEBC, where they will converge at the Uhuru Park before proceeding to the IEBC offices at the Anniversary Towers. Earlier from Hassan Mugambi, we saw some NASA supporters there calling for the resignation of Ezra Chiloba, that's the IEBC CEO, and therefore we will be getting images from there as the NASA brigade makes its way to the Central Business District. To you, David, as we proceed with this conversation, indeed your reactions to what the Suba legislator there has said.
Well, I think
the rhetoric between not just NASA but NASA and Jubilee, 30 days to the polls, how healthy this is for the nation at a time when Kenyans are exhausted with the back and forth, at a time when Kenyans are hoping to see an end to this stalemate.
No, I think the issues raised by the Super South MP are very, very sensitive, and we need to address them for what they are. Because yesterday,
for now, they are claims, because
they are claims.
Not a fact as yet that indeed Moses Kuria is organizing anything.
But you know, we are not blind. We live in this country, and yesterday, those who viewed the media, the television station owned privately by the president's family at least, so that a group of people came christening themselves the Nairobi Business Association. But for what I know and for what we know is that if it squeaks like a duck and swims like a duck and squawks like a duck, then it is a duck. And that if Lillian today showed up and someone else calls her Jennifer, she is still Lillian. Alright? And so what we saw is a group of people who by look and action, at least they depict what we used to know of the outlawed sect Mungiki. And they made a promise, and may live by it, that they will be in the business district today to protect a job that is not theirs, to protect businesses that they own, when we have a police system to deal with that. Now, if the claims, that may then lend some credence to what Mbadi has said, you know, that there is a plan. I hope that will not be the case, because the moment that happens, then there is going to be high probability that we will descend into chaos. Remember when Jubilee and team went to demand for the exit of the judges, none of the NASA supporters were there, and I think that since it is anchored in law that protests and picketing are allowed by law, it shouldn't be the prerogative of the ruling coalition, at least their MPs, to try and cause chaos within this framework. I think let them have their field day, let them show their disaffection, and see how it goes from there. Let the police do their job of protecting them.
Speaking of the police, Simeha, the presidency yesterday, both the president and his deputy said that there would be zero tolerance to any forms of violence, and not only from the NASA leadership, but indeed from their supporters. So how then does this marry in with the executive already coming out and saying that there will be zero tolerance to violence? We already see heavy police presence there, meaning essentially these are not only likely to be NASA supporters, but there's likely to be Jubilee supporters there as well.
Yeah, very well. It's all right for the president to say that. It should be a given that, security agencies should not tolerate any kind of criminal activity, violent or otherwise. That it should be a given that we need not be reminded by the president, but we need to be given assurances by security agencies. But be that as it may, I know that NASA has very solid intelligence gathering systems, and the nation is going through unprecedented levels of whistleblowing, let me call it that, including from security agencies. It's incredible how people from within the system up to the office of the president, when they notice or they sniff something, they will pick, not just bring you tell you something verbally, but actually bring you evidence that this is being planned. So when you are organizing, when you are responsible and you are organizing that kind of demonstration, you actually have to go out of your way, have your ears on the ground, sniff if there's any possibility of someone causing mischief so that it can be blamed on you or hurt anybody. You must speak against it. And as one of my colleagues here has said, we saw a demonstration in this town not too long ago against the Supreme Court. No disruption at all. No disruption at all. I saw a demonstration yesterday against Babu Owino. No disruption from any people who oppose, say, Jubilee, or who oppose those who were demonstrating. That is how it should be. Anybody who would like to express themselves in that manner ought to be allowed without interference to express themselves, for as long as they also do not interfere with the rights of other people. Disruptions, inevitably. When there's a public demonstration anywhere in this world, disruptions inevitably, but that's the work now of the police to agree with the demonstrators on the routes to use, control of traffic, and things like those. So disruptions are inevitable.
And Mark, questions have been raised around whether NASA is genuinely concerned in reforms within the IEBC, or whether they are intent on frustrating this process. While their competitors are out campaigning, they are here planning to picket and now making claims or actually coming out to say that the security detail of the NASA leadership has been taken away. Is this a deliberate strategy on their part, do you think? Are they genuinely interested in actually seeing this election happen on the 26th of October? What do you think their strategy is?
As a strategist, I must tell you that you must always look at what seems to be the intentions and where the conversation seems to be going. Now, if your communication is you're running for office, then much of your communication will be about your run for office. When your communication becomes about IEBC and Chiloba, that tells you that your focus actually is on the IEBC, and that must bring you into the conclusion that are they strategically targeting the IEBC, and this is something that has happened even before the elections, to create a situation where the IEBC cannot conduct an election. You've got to draw that conclusion, and how you draw that conclusion is very simple. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So what they're talking about most is what is most important to them. But the question you have to ask yourself, if a football coach comes before the match and the entire time he's talking about the referee, how he's dressed, how he needs to be changed, how after they change the referee, they need to change the referee again, that tells you that is a coach who's not ready to play the match. And that conclusion is the only conclusion you can come to, because the reality of the matter is there are mechanisms by which to correct the errors in the IEBC, and the courts have proven that. The courts have ruled several times in favor of NASA, so it should not be a campaign issue, in my opinion.
Lillian, I think
and Gabriel, just before I let you respond, David, because we're coming to the top of the hour, Kenyans have been subjected, Gabriel, to the back and forth between NASA and Jubilee, while the NASA leadership says that Uhuru Kenyatta believes that this is his birthright, that this win is his birthright. NASA, on the other hand, has been criticized as being a sore loser, that the NASA leadership, that of Raila Odinga, believes that this will only be a win if it is his win. Kenyans being subjected to this back and forth, and questions surrounding NASA and what their end game really is. Are they looking for a negotiated presidency? Do they want an electoral presidency? What is the end game for them? What do they want to achieve?
Lillian, could be argued that, and I've had so many people, including scholars that I respect, actually saying we don't have any other way to go but to have some element of what you would call a caretaker government. I've tried to look at it in our constitution. It's not proper. In fact, our constitution was primarily injected into this country to ensure we don't have such things. Totally. So the question that you drive, what are they after? It's something that people need to say, because they cannot come out and say we want this. They have not actually put that clearly. When it's fronted to them, they are saying no, we are not, and we don't want an category. Same thing they were saying in 2007. But really, the question that that we all should drive to, which makes a lot of sense, is: are they, or are we looking to have what you'd call the reforms? These were things that were captured on the Agenda 4. If you look at the Agenda 4 issues, it's quite well detailed, quite well defined. What must we do to have an election that doesn't have a lot of ambiguity? 2007, Lillian, we are back to the very same place. In fact, worse than we were back then. Because at that time, we didn't know. We didn't have all this mechanical and the processes that we have within IEBC. But then all of a sudden, you're wondering, how have we gone back to where we were in 2007? Why are we talking about changing, removing people out of office? What are we? Why is our constant belief that we need to get people out and bring new people? Why must that be? And I like what Maki is saying, that if processes are working, if we know that they are clearly defined, then it should not be an issue. The issue is not people who are in office, which now brings me to the rights that we are talking about, picketing and what have you. If you look at a progress nation like the United States, and I was asking somebody this, there is picketing and demonstrations every day outside the White House, but they have been reserved a place where they do that. And I was asking, somebody, why do you reserve that place? And they said, so that they don't interfere with other people's rights. And this is where you bring now the business, the business community in Nairobi. They are saying, every time you have these demonstrations, my business is affected. So even Chiloba in office, When we are talking about getting him out of office, does he have constitutional rights? He does. So where does your constitutional right begin and where do mine end? If they are affecting my business, who is there to protect me? Because at the end of the day, I have to pay the taxes, which are paying your leaders to help you, come and demonstrate. I am running a business. I need to feed. I need to do all these things. So where are my rights? Who is ensuring that my rights are within the Constitution? Because you're claiming when you're demonstrating and you're picketing, you are just demonstrating your rights. Where do my rights? Where are Chiloba's rights? And those are things that we must protect. But I go back to what I told you.
Right.
The fact that we removed commissioners unconstitutionally, using a mechanism called a legal political bypass, whoever cares about that name, is what has come to haunt us. Because they believe even using these kind of demonstrations will have Chiloba go. And I think that would be a major disservice to that institution.
David, I believe you will be responding to Salim Swale's questions in the next hour. We are completely out of time.
No,
that is Citizen Extra. With me, Lillian Muli. We are going to be bringing you more from the anniversary towers, where the NASA leadership will be making its way as they continue to protest over the IEBC. They want reforms within the electoral agency. With me in studio was David Osiani, public policy consultant, Gabriel Mutuma, political analyst, Mark Bichache, communication strategist, and Joseph Simeha, who is a political analyst. Salim Swale is next with more on Citizen Extra. Stay with Citizen TV.